19 EIDLs that the SBA is shipping off to the United States Treasury for collection. Now we're hearing that small business owners are getting calls from collection agencies. And the more business owners we talk to, we're discovering one underlying theme. A lot of people are being sent into default because of SBA mistakes, not because the business owners are deadbeats, not because the business owners aren't making payments, not because the business owners aren't attempting to make good on this debt. No, no, no. SBA's dysfunction is causing defaulted loans to go into collection and wreaking havoc in the lives and minds of small business owners all across the country. SBA, you have got to do better. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath and let Linda introduce us. And I got a lot to go over today.
That is some introduction. I
have to drink my tea.
Yeah, drink your tea. Take a deep breath, but not at the same time as you're drinking your tea. Completely impromptu, unplanned. We have had a lot of emotions today for a lot of different reasons. I've already posted 3 videos, so you may be wondering, why are they having another video?
Because this is timely, and you know what? Time is of the essence. Miss T, welcome to the show, and you got a call yesterday. Can you tell us, Miss T, if that's from a collection agency or from the SBA? Who was the call from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Before you go on, I just want to say thank you.
Because I'm raring to go.
I know. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Just want to first say thank you to everyone who is already tuning in. When we said about 10 minutes ago that we were going to go live, it was more self-serving so that we had more video to edit to have for future updates for you. But you're here, and we thank you for being here and being with us.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you for being here.
It really makes our live broadcast so much better for us to be with you and hang out with you. So thank you for being here. We're still going to use this for future content, but thank you. Okay, now, before your brains explode all over the dining room.
That already happened.
All right, where do you want to start? Where are we going with this? What are we doing? What's up?
Okay.
And so I can say hi to everybody. Hi. Hello.
Hi, Brian. Welcome to the show.
My first live. Oh, welcome.
Okay.
Welcome. Buckle up.
I'm going to tell you how our broadcast this evening was, it's evening here in New England. We had snow today and snow this week, if you can see. Inspired by my outrage over what SBA's dysfunction is causing you folks, the small business owners who are trying to make good, people who are making payments, people who are requesting hardship accommodation, people who are communicating with the SBA, people who set up auto pay. SBA's mistakes are causing your loans to be shipped off to the United States Treasury for collection. You call U.S. Treasury, you're on hold for 3 hours. I've done it. I haven't gotten anybody on the phone. I spoke to a small business owner in Ohio earlier today who just hired us for our U.S. Treasury dispute consulting package. And she told me that she was on hold for 3 hours and 15 minutes and got somebody on the phone at Treasury who told her, now it's too late. It's already with collections. You have to speak to the collection agency, not to Treasury.
I don't understand.
Okay, we're going to get there because I don't understand either.
Well, then how are we going to get there?
Because we're going to try to make some sense of it with strategies and with feedback from our audience.
Okay.
That call with that business owner, along with several other clients who have hired us in the last 2 or 3 weeks for our U.S. Treasury dispute consulting package, people we're speaking to, when I hear their stories, I am outraged. Here are some of samples of what I'm hearing, starting with today. This business owner's first payment was due February 2023. She got a letter from SBA.
Which you were shocked about.
She got a letter, first payment letter. Your first payment's coming up. Follow these instructions to set up payments. And this is back at the end of 2022 into the beginning of 23, when the SBA still had to concoct two different websites, pay.gov and CAFS, Capital Access Finance System, that you had to go and create an account with each one of those two separate websites, which were not SBA, and set up a payment profile. SBA transitioned into the new MySBA portal in February.
So we're at 3 now. 3 different portals.
Well, yeah, okay.
Over
But
the
the
course
part
of-
about it being
yeah.
transitioned is very important. So this business owner in Ohio, and she's not the first person that told me this, she set up her pay.gov CAFS account, her profile. She set up auto pay. Set it and forget it, right? This is a business that does nearly $1 million in gross revenue last year alone. The payment on the COVID-19 EIDL is only about $1,500 a month. She can make that payment in a heartbeat, in her sleep. It's not a problem. She pays all her bills. She's in the care business of having to. Her business has a lot of regulatory compliance. This woman runs her business like a finely tuned machine. So when she sets up an auto pay, she sets it and forgets it. She gets a letter from SBA in September. You are delinquent. Make a payment immediately. She tries to log in to the old pay.gov. Can't do it. Calls SBA. They said, oh, well, they give her the login. They get her set up with MySBA portal. She goes in to see that she's delinquent 5 or 6 months. But by then it's too late because SBA says to her on the phone, we've already sent your file for collection to the United States Treasury. Because it was more than 6 months late. This more than 6 months, by the way, is very important about SBA's internal processes. We're going to get to that.
All right. Cliffhanger.
So let's be clear. The business owner is not a deadbeat. The business owner set up auto pay. SBA transitioned to a new portal. Did not carry over the auto pay to the new portal. And it rides for month after month after month after month. And she's busy running her business. Yes, should she have been looking for the bank statements? But you see, as I learned by attending an SBA webinar this past Thursday, SBA kind of assumes you all think that SBA is top of mind. And they're not. You know why? Because you're busy running your business.
Okay.
And if you're doing nearly $1 million in revenue,
Hot
you've got
mic,
a $1,500 payment, you set it on auto pay and you forget it. And then when you do your books at the end of the day, at the end of the year, maybe then you will see, wait, that payment didn't come out of my bank account, okay? So she gets this default letter. Then she's told it's the U.S. Treasury. Then she tells it's collection. Oh, and then she gets an email, not from the United States Treasury. She doesn't get a letter from the United States Treasury, as other people have gotten. She doesn't get a delinquency letter after September. She doesn't get a letter from SBA saying, goodbye, your loan has been sent for collection. None of this. She gets an email to her personal email address from a collection agency. And she's like, why is this going to my personal email address? Why not my business email address, which is on the loan application? How do they even find my personal email address? Well, they're collection agency, so let's not get into the despicable methods of collection agents. And the collection agency offers her a repayment plan, which is in a moment when I go over the collection agency rules, you're going to see why that's a violation. Okay.
Okay.
I'm getting kicked under the table.
Because
So that call, along with several others, inspired this live video tonight. We were interviewed a couple of weeks ago by an NBC News affiliate in Washington, D.C. She found us here on YouTube. The reporter found Susan Hogan is the reporter for NBC. She found us on YouTube. She's working with a local small business owner in Washington, D.C. Do you want to fill them in on that?
are you okay?
While I have some gas from my tea.
God. So they were doing a piece on a business who they were trying to get another loan to open their second business, I think, if I recall correctly. And there was an EIDL default on the books, and the loan was denied by see you later, can't do anything for you.
Well, no, the loan was not denied.
What? Okay, see, I don't really. Okay, so
All right, I'm back.
okay.
So, the small business owner, they had like a fitness business, like a gym, right? And they took out a COVID-19 EIDL for $24,000 back during the pandemic. They're opening a new location.
Yeah.
They go to a bank that drops them immediately into an SBA, because that's what the damn banks do, by the way.
Which is the video. One of the videos we posted today is about, if you think you're not going to deal with the SBA in the future,
You're wrong.
you'd be wrong. So I
So this bank-
was correct so far.
This
Okay.
bank drops them into an SBA profile. They get approved for the SBA loan, a couple of $100,000 to open their new fitness location, equipment, construction build out, all of that. And then the lender, they're getting ready to close, and the lender calls and says, no, your file's on hold because you defaulted on a COVID-19 EIDL for $24,000, and until you resolve that, you cannot get this other loan for several $100,000. Your business is dead in the water. Stop dead in your tracks.
Well, no, the business wasn't dead in the water. The
No, the
prospect
loan.
of a loan.
Well, the
yes.
business is dead in the water because the new
Because
location
of the prospect
cannot
of
open.
Yes.
Okay? Susan Hogan and her producer get involved at NBC, and they get the SBA on the phone. Of course, once the press calls, the SBA gets it, done in 5 days to get it fixed. And it turns out, Susan finds us, and they interview us here on Zoom, and they quoted us in the piece. But we watched the piece a couple of days later, and the business owner said, "Hi, Daia. Daia is here. She is the inspiration for today's broadcast." So the NBC, we watched the report, and the business owners say,
In the video.
well, it was a $24,000 loan, and we put it on auto pay. Set it and forget it. Daia, does this sound familiar? And sure enough, all these months later, they got no notification from the SBA, no phone calls, no emails, no letters, blah, 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 until they were trying to get the other SBA loan. So that happened about 5 weeks ago, right? And then today we spoke with Daia, and we've spoken to other business owners all this past week. I mean, the calls are really starting to come in a lot with people who are in trouble, who are asking for our assistance. And we are currently offering a U.S. Treasury dispute package, because right now that appears to be the only action you can take is to dispute this.
Okay,
And to say,
Let me put my business owner hat on.
okay, I'm going to take a deep breath.
As the loan.
Daia, I'm having tea.
Yeah, so business owner hat for the loan officer, retired loan officer specializing in government loans. Why do you think the SBA and the Treasury are putting the onus on the business owner to do all the work that evidently is so hard to do because no one's answering the phone? The SBA is just bulk transferring, thanks possibly to the politicians, in our opinion, potentially. But why is the business owner, who's in charge to maybe fix this? Especially for the business owners that have been making payments or attempting to make payments, or even if it was a smaller payment, and not the full payment, or maybe not the full official hardship accommodation approved payment. Why does the business owner have to do all the work?
Well, because the SBA is behaving as if you all think SBA is top of mind. I want to address Michael's statement and Daniel's statement, and then I'm going to talk about why SBA thinks you're top of. SBA thinks that you think that they're top of mind, and why they're not.
Daniel Watkins,
Daniel,
recognize your name.
Okay, so your portal does show your payments, Daniel. You've got to click on the tab that says Payment History. It's a drop down, and it'll take you into the payment history page, and there it will show you all of your payments that you've made, including, very important, is the payment confirmation code, which is a very strange string of letters and numbers, like lowercase a, uppercase F, 367, lowercase y, h, et cetera, et cetera. That coding is very important because that's the ACH coding for SBA that shows that they have taken your payment. So have a look there, Daniel. Michael, as far as your portal not showing, that is normal. There's nothing unusual about that. If you make a payment today, it may take 5 or 6 days for that payment to appear in your portal. We know because we interact with the portal for some of our clients, some of the very early clients that hired us way back in March and April of 2020, that we got them approved for COVID-19 EIDLs. And at the end of 2022, I asked those people if I could help them because we were gathering information for our comprehensive guidebook for all you business owners about every aspect of your responsibilities and restrictions of the COVID-19 EIDL. Okay, so
Before you do that, I just want to ask for those viewers that are with us, if you could just hit that thumbs up. Since our channel is kind of like nobody wants to talk about this stuff. This is not exciting. This is not a food channel or anything like that. And so YouTube doesn't really favor, us as a small little channel. So you liking is a huge deal for us, and we would really appreciate that. Just to kind of keep us vital with our EIDL updates, because this is going to go on for a very long time.
not the video.
No, no, the SBA dysfunction. And
Well, I don't know about that.
you don't know about, well, do share.
Okay.
Do
So we
Share.
talked about auto pay. So first piece of advice I have for you folks who are watching or who are watching on replay. If you set up a pay.gov CAFS account and you set up auto pay, make sure you have also created a MySBA account. And by the way, the URL for the MySBA portal is not what you would think it is, right? What would you think it is?
MySBA.gov.
Toshiba, welcome. It's great to see you, our friend.
He can't watch.
Why not?
Thank you. He says can't watch. Hope you're recording.
Okay, so he can't answer my question.
Yeah.
But hey, Michael Quinn, if you were setting up a website for the SBA,
I was going to answer the question.
well, I want to let Michael or Ashley, or Miss T, give them a chance.
All right, yeah.
This is audience participation.
Let's
okay?
do round robin.
This is like when I used to sing love songs and rock and roll songs at the senior residences before COVID put my music business out of business. So who wants to answer the question? If you were setting up a website for the SBA and you were going to call the website MySBA, what's the URL you think you would register? Because you would be wrong, by the way.
Carlo!
Carlo, welcome. I'm glad you got my text message.
Hello. Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm thinking it's mysbaportal.gov.
And you would be wrong.
Okay.
It's lending.sba.gov.
What? That's like
SBA,
so
you've got to do
counterintuitive.
better.
That's so
Okay.
counterintuitive. Okay. All right.
So, when I spoke earlier with Daia earlier today, she searched and found us here on YouTube. And Carlo, you know this, and anybody that speaks to me on our live consulting, our 1 hour consulting calls, one of the questions I ask is, how did you find us? Because the amazing Linda Ray needs to, can you put up Miss T's comment?
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly.
Thank you, Miss T. You are right. That makes no sense. Okay. So as I asked Carlo and I asked Daia earlier today, she said to me, she searched by typing in, can the SBA default my EIDL without notifying me?
Yes. Ooh.
And our video showed up.
This is another trick question because
Yep.
SBA,
Well, we're all about tricky dicky questions tonight.
the SBA, they just do whatever they want. I don't. Okay. All right.
Okay.
You don't see the
Well,
button?
let me tell you.
What button?
It doesn't see the like button.
Don't see the like button. It should be right under the video, next to the title. But thank you for
Thanks for pointing
listening
that out.
to.
And welcome, Gene. Welcome to the K-Pads. Welcome.
Oh,
yeah, K-Pads. We're going to come to that.
okay.
I'm going to start out by answering a question saying we don't know yet. We're just going to share with you our general understanding of how that works. But,
Yeah.
So if that's not specific enough for you,
They've
we get
alluded
it.
to some of the consequences as
Okay.
a result due into a letter.
So
if y'all are on TikTok, follow me on TikTok.
Can the SBA default your loan without notifying you? And the shameful answer to this question is we are discovering the more folks that we speak to, people are calling us, they're booking our 1-hour consultation calls. People are hiring us for our U.S. Treasury dispute consulting package. And as I interview these small business owners, every one of whom has been attempting
Yes.
either
Yes.
attempting to make payments or has requested hardship accommodation for reduced payment with no response from SBA or has been making payments, okay? Like people making auto pay, okay? The shameful answer to the question, can SBA default my loan without notifying me? The answer is yes, they're doing it.
They're doing it.
And we know, so a couple of clients that we helped in the early days, as I mentioned a moment ago, I reached out to them at the end of 2022, one of them in particular, to set up his payment portal, and that would gather, it was a way of me doing research on how it worked, so I could write that into our expert guidebook, the post-closing blueprint, we call it, which we're going to change the name soon when we republish it. But and we had another client who was actually like the third or fourth client who hired us back in 2020 to get a COVID EIDL. And his situation, he hired us to manage consulting to notify the SBA that his business partner had embezzled the funds. And so for both of those people, I set up pay.gov and then later set up the MySBA portal. But the reason I knew about MySBA portal is because this is what I do for a living. This is my consulting practice. I'm in tune with this. And the SBA's communications, as we know all the way back during the pandemic, their communications are terrible. We're hearing time and again from people that they've gotten no emails, no phone calls, no letters. People are not even getting first payment letters saying, hey, your first payment is going to come up on March 1st, 2024. Set up a profile.
All right. Let me stop you right there because we're throwing a lot at everybody and we want to have some productive insights. So what can people do even though it seems like a black void of nothingness for which the SBA is not responding? What can business owners do? Like, here's an example as a business owner, because again, wearing the business owner hat, just to have some sense of control, can they just document every attempt of contacting the SBA? Should they be documenting everything that and every interaction with the SBA so that when the fit hits the shan, what this would be, I'm trying and you're not helping me, SBA or IRS. So
I have a simple answer to this complicated question.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it shouldn't even be complicated. That's the thing.
So here's the simple answer to the question.
Okay.
Make payments.
Okay. All right. Which I've been hearing you say to people. And then the question becomes, but what if it's at Treasury?
File a dispute with the U.S. Treasury.
Okay. I know that, but.
Make payments.
Okay. So just continue to make payments, even if the file is with Treasury.
I spoke to SBA Servicing Center a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And keep in mind, when I speak to the SBA, very often the representatives speak to me in a more collegial manner because I introduce myself as who I am, a veteran loan officer with a 30-year career as a direct lender for government mortgage loans, and how Linda and I, in this little house here in Connecticut.
Which is there wine here? Because I'm going to
There is no wine. How we helped the clients who hired us to get $70 million in approvals for EIDLs during the pandemic. And with our free videos, and we used to do free consulting calls during the pandemic, we estimate people used our information to get approved for another $30 million. So altogether, me and this gal, we helped small business owners obtain $100 million in approved EIDLs. And so this is kind of how I introduce myself. So very often, especially if I have a better quality SBA agent, they'll give me kind of a more collegial, because they treat me like a colleague, right? Because I treat them like a colleague. And I spoke to a woman at the servicing center in Texas a couple of weeks ago, and because I built my mortgage career I don't take no for an answer, which is how I got some really difficult low down payment loans approved in my career. I use the same approach when I speak to SBA representatives, and I keep pushing to get the answer that I want to hear.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And so what she told me was, I said to her, what if, because I had the business owner on the other line, he had paid for the 1 hour consulting call, and I called the servicing agent, and I had the client on the other line. And I said, well, what if he just sends in a lump sum payment to bring it current? Because he can do that right now. And she said, well, Trevor, if you send the payment into us, we're just going to forward it to the U.S. Treasury.
Okay, so that's the answer.
It's not the answer.
It's not the answer.
It's not the answer.
Okay.
It's not the answer. I'm going to tell you why it's not the answer.
Okay.
Because back in October, a small business in Indiana hired us because they had 2 different businesses, 2 different COVID EIDLs, each for $500,000 each, which means there's a personal guarantee. And one of the businesses, through no fault of the business owner, had to close. Not economic conditions, nothing like that. There were issues I can't go into, but the business had to close, and he wasn't making any payments. So he hired us to discuss his options, and bankruptcy was not an option for him. And to go back to KPAD's questions, I explained to him how the process goes. Once a file goes to U.S. Treasury, then at some point, the IRS is going to get involved and start doing wage garnishments. If you are an employee of your business and you get a W-2 salary, wage garnishments, offset of tax refunds for business tax refunds. And if you have a personal guarantee, then potentially
it's already
offset
happening
of personal tax refunds. And in the case of this particular customer client I was speaking to, he's in the medical field, so they get federal payments through Medicaid or Medicare, I forget which one it is. And so that could affect their ability to get payments because of the offset. So there's so much go wrong. And he just said to me, he's kind of in my age group, and he said, personal bankruptcy is not an option. Okay? Gene, I'm going to answer that question for you in just a second. Because I have up-to-date information based on an SBA webinar I attended the other day. So this business owner, in any event, we called the SBA, and this is back in October, when the SBA agents would still offer you the option to make a lump sum payment, bring the loan current, and then send an email and request the status be updated. So we did that, except my client didn't send in the email to update the status until December. He made the payment in October, and finally, so I spoke to the SBA a week ago yesterday, which is Friday, February, 5th or something like that, and the SBA said to me, yes, Trevor, I can see that he made the lump sum payment to bring the loan current, and I can see that our servicing center is still working on updating the status in the portal, which completely contradicts what the SBA said in the webinar that I attended the other day, and what generally they say about if it's gone to U.S. Treasury, and what they're telling you when you call, what the collection agencies are telling you, and what the U.S. Treasury and what the SBA is telling you. This, again, is part of this continuing confusion with the SBA. Thank you, Ms. T. Completely crazy. There is complete, that's why I started out our broadcast tonight by saying chaos and confusion.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So what did the administrator of the SBA, who was on the webinar, what did he say to answer Jean's question? Can we put Jean's question back up, please?
Oh, yes. I'm just about to type a comment that's remind you
I need Jean's
to please
comment. Okay.
hit like, please.
Yeah, please, if you could like our video, we want to spark the algorithm.
YouTube to know that we're here.
And if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so right now.
Yes.
We just hit 9,000. We'd love to get to 10,000 before the end of this broadcast in 10 minutes. Hey, Daniel, muscle cars. I love it. I love me a 66 Mustang. And we're going to get to your question in just a second. So, Gene, as per the SBA, as recently as this past week on the webinar I attended, SBA, will send your file to U.S. Treasury when you are 180 days delinquent. So, Gene, you're at 64 days. You have a chance to
have a chance.
save this and pull the fat out of the fire, as they say. All right.
No, I want bacon.
So, Gene, how are you going to do that? What you're going to do is you're going to request hardship accommodation if you cannot make a full payment.
Stat.
But before you do that, I would strongly recommend, Gene, if you can, to make a full payment to bring it current if you're 60. So that's 2 months of payments. I would recommend going into your MySBA portal tonight and making a full payment to bring that loan current and then request a hardship accommodation. But to be clear, the SBA states for all loan sizes, not just loans under $100,000, and we're going to talk about the 60-day grace period for those loans in a moment, but for all loan sizes, the SBA will offer a hardship accommodation even if you are 60 days delinquent. Essentially, what the SBA Administrator said on the webinar is, we will work with people who are attempting to make payments. And we've said this all along. We've done live videos. The last one we did was a few months ago. But every time we had questions like this come up, every time we did our pre-recorded videos, my recommended strategy as a former banker was
Yes.
make payments. Because you can't be faulted for making payments, although apparently you can. Okay? So this is part of what we're going to talk about. All right. So 180 days or 6 months is when SBA will ship you off to U.S. Treasury for collection. And what SBA says in the webinar the other day, if they shipped you off to collection, they will not bring your loan back if it's with U.S. Treasury already, because then it's in what's called cross-servicing. Between you and me and the wall, I don't believe that to be true.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that SBA is going to stay languishing in the mud of their dysfunction.
Yeah.
Because so many of you have been attempting to make payments. We have one client who hired us who back in, his first payment was due in November of 2022. And he went to the SBA website, which said you can request a hardship accommodation 60 days in advance of your first payment. And so he did that. He requested the hardship accommodation, never heard back from SBA, got the standard template email, thank you for your contact, et cetera, but never heard back from them with an approval on the hardship accommodation. And he said, well, and the reason he requested is because he had 3 hair salons and the businesses were struggling. They hadn't recovered yet from the pandemic. So he started making payments through pay.gov and CAFs of the hardship accommodation reduced amount. The payment reduced to 10% of his regular payment, thinking they'll see my payments and they'll subsequently approve me for my hardship accommodation, until one day, nearly a year later, he gets a U.S. Treasury letter, and we're working with that now to pull that back. And we don't know if we can. But our recommended strategy, again, is to file a dispute with the U.S. Treasury. And again, Carlo has signed up for it. A couple of other people have signed up for it. We are offering a flat fee U.S. Treasury dispute consulting package where I prepare all the forms. I gather background information from you, because especially if you have been in a situation like Carlo, like other people who have been communicating with the SBA, who have been making payments, or someone who set up an auto payment only to find months later that SBA didn't transfer it from pay.gov over to MySBA, whatever. If it is SBA's fault, then they should bring it back.
That's right.
Because it's their fault. And I want that my Treasury consulting package is designed to show that to the relevant people who need to hear it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. There are questions you said you were going to get back to people.
Okay, well, I answered Gene's question,
Yep.
delinquency. I answered K-pop about the IRS.
Okay.
Miss T keeps coming in with humorous asides, so I'd like to see her up on the screen frequently and often because she's a hoot.
I think she was laughing at my bacon comment.
There was a bacon comment?
Yes.
Oh, man, now I want bacon.
I know. Okay, so they told us we had to be up to date on. Yes, that is
not true.
What?
Nope, it's no longer true.
Oh, see, they just change stuff all the time because that was.
It is not true.
That was true. We have a playlist on assigned to U.S. Treasury in our early videos. On that playlist, it says.
See, I told you, put Miss T up on the screen. We should just invite her onto the show. She could do the show. Carlo, I saw your question. I'm going to come back to that because that's an important question. Carlo
Is it
wants
this
to
one?
know,
Is it-
about garnishment. But let's
Yes.
get back to Ms. T.
I feel like somebody had a question and we.
Well, you'll have to scroll back and look for it. But I said Gene and K-pop.
And Daniel Watkins.
What was Daniel's
I don't. Maybe
question?
he didn't have a question. He had a comment. Okay.
Alrighty.
If you have a question, just put it up.
And please be specific with your questions.
And please hit like so that YouTube knows that we are still here. Not here like live now, but like we're still.
Hey, I have a really crazy request, completely lunatic request.
All right.
Could you all, each one of you, take a moment right now to send a text message to another business owner you know who has a COVID-19 EIDL, whether they're in default or not, whatever the situation is, and let them know about our broadcast right now that maybe they want to join us, okay? So K-Pad's going to come back to that question about bankruptcy.
Were you going to go to Carlo first?
I want to do Miss T. We were talking about you have to be current. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yes, Ms. T, you are correct. They were telling people as recently as just a few weeks ago that you must be current. In fact, if you call right now, well, you can't get anybody right now because they close on Saturdays, but if you call, you very likely will get an agent who tells you you have to be current, which is not true. SBA has revised their guidelines as of this week so that you can request a hardship accommodation on a loan of any size, even if it's more than $100,000. Because the loans under $100,000 are in a 60-day grace period that was announced back on January 5th. Loans of all sizes, as per the SBA webinar that I attended the other day, the SBA stated, we will offer you a hardship accommodation even if you're delinquent, but we need to see you making the effort to reach out and offering to make a payment and having some kind of a so when you contact the SBA, you'd better have a repayment plan in mind. You can't just call willy-nilly and say, because in my experience in dealing with the SBA in these situations right now is if you call with open-ended questions, you will be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because you will either get wrong answers or insufficient answers to your questions. So if you are delinquent as Gene is, 64 days, if you want a hardship accommodation and you are not current, if you are very far behind and you want to make a lump sum, my recommendation is to contact them with that repayment plan already established. And better yet, go to your MySBA portal and make the payment.
Yeah.
Now, if your loan is less than $200,000, you can request hardship accommodation for the first time of the hardship request and for the second hardship request, which is the extension, because you can get up to 4 hardship accommodations for a 2-year period. They're each 6 months long. You can get up to 4 6-month periods. The first 2 you can request for loans less than $200,000 directly on the MySBA portal. There's a drop down. You have to click a disclosure that you agree to the terms, and then you've read the terms, and then you can put in the amount that you want to pay. It doesn't have to be the full 90% reduction, by the way. You can reduce the payment by as much as 90% down to 10% of your payment, but you don't have to. You can always pay more than the 10%. So if your loan is more than $200,000, you must send an email to cesc@sba.gov. That's the servicing center. They will send you the hardship accommodation application, which we also offer consulting services to assist with that aspect. If you'd like to contact us about that, click on the link in the description. Now, again, as per this week, the SBA stated in the webinar I attended that you don't have to be current. But if you are more than 6 months, 180 days, they claim they're not going to talk to you. My strategy is make a payment anyway through MySBA and see what happens in the coming weeks or months. To go back to some of our questions here about what happens if it goes to Treasury. Okay. So let me just scan some of the questions. Carlo, how long after defaulting do they start garnishing? We don't know, or going after your assets. We don't know the answer to that question yet, other than to say, generally speaking, when the IRS, the U.S. Treasury, is attempting to collect a debt, first thing they do is they send out a W-2 garnishment notice. We know people have gotten those notices already. So if you are an owner of your business and you receive a salary because of the way you file your tax returns, and you are receiving a W-2, then you will be required to garnish your own wages. As far as doing an offset of tax refunds, my understanding, my experience is that the IRS, the Treasury, first has to get a judgment, right? that seems to be how it should work. Going back to KPAD's question of how does it work? But again, this is all developing.
Well, if they can change stuff all the time, I don't understand why they can't change it for the better, or change it back to what it was, or change it, if they keep changing and making their own rules, why can't they do it in favor of the business owners who are trying to make payments? Where's my cricket sound effect? You got nothing on that? Nothing?
Because politically, there's a lot of pressure for some knuckleheads on Capitol Hill who are screaming and shouting that the SBA should be collecting these debts. And that gasoline was thrown in that fire by SBA's own Office of Inspector General, Mike Hannibal Ware, who's been running around and shouting and screaming and whispering to anybody who will listen about how many fraudulent loans were done. We've done videos about that before. I'm not going to go over old ground. Okay, so let's go to the questions. Can we go to this one here from Carlo? This one right here.
Oh.
Okay, I had until today. Turn in hardship. Yeah, as I instructed you the other day, not to turn in that letter. We're going to be dealing with that in the next couple of days for you. Look, these folks, they're giving deadlines because they think you all are sitting around on a pile of cash that you could just pay these loans off. And what you really need is communications.
Yes.
Which is why my primary strategy is to file a U.S. Treasury dispute, to indicate to Treasury, listen, you should not have this loan in default. I am not a deadbeat.
Yeah.
I have been trying to make payments. I set up auto pay. I communicated with the SBA. I never got any notifications from the SBA. I never got a first payment letter. I spoke to somebody the other day who had never gotten a first payment letter. Okay?
Okay.
What's next?
Yeah, there was, the KPADs had the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Can you go?
Okay, so we are not attorneys.
Yeah.
And so we cannot give legal advice. So the answer to your question I'm about to give you is for informational purposes only. But based upon a couple of other bankruptcy attorneys I found here on YouTube, they state in their videos that a COVID-19 EIDL can, in fact, be discharged in bankruptcy. Okay. But please understand something about bankruptcy. It is not an option for everybody.
Yeah.
First of all, if you have a COVID-19 EIDL of greater than $200,000, then you're on the hook for a personal guarantee, which I think, and again, this is not legal advice, just me surmising and theorizing. I would think if your loan's more than $200,000 with a personal guarantee and you file a bankruptcy for your business to discharge the COVID-19 EIDL, you would probably also have to file a personal bankruptcy. And that is not an option for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question, KPADs. But by the way, if your file is that far along with the U.S. Treasury, and you should be able to file what's called an offer in compromise with the IRS/U.S. Treasury, where if you owe $200,000 and you say to them, look, I can pay $50,000 and call it a day and discharge the debt. Same as back taxes. Again, we don't know that in fact this is possible yet, but it should be.
Well,
because it is normal procedure at the IRS and Treasury to allow this type of feature.
Also, I want to just throw in what, again, business owner hat. SBA doesn't, from what I understand, and correct me where I might be wrong, the SBA, if your loan is still with SBA, you don't have the offer and compromise option.
Thank you for bringing that up. You are correct.
Yes, because that is
on a COVID-19 EIDL only.
It is a huge, it's a huge topic of conversation because so many people are talking about these things and what the possible solutions and strategies are, but the SBA doesn't have that capability. IRS has that capability. So that's that. I want to make sure.
For the COVID-19 EIDLs.
For the COVID-19 EIDL.
If you hear somebody telling you, these two people, that guy Trevor doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, of course you can do offer and compromise. They are wrong. Yeah. You can only do an offer and compromise with the SBA for regular SBA loans.
Yes.
And again, going back to SBA's dysfunction, we have heard stories where SBA representatives are saying to people, oh, sure, we can do an offer and compromise, and sending people, business owners, the application for offer and compromise when they've got a COVID-19 EIDL. SBA does not offer in compromise
For
COVID-19
COVID-19
EIDLs, to be crystal clear.
Yes.
And SBA COVID-19 EIDLs are not forgivable.
Yes.
Okay, we've done videos about that, and there's more videos coming about why they're not forgivable. I've got a 3-part series coming up on that.
Yeah.
I've done a deep dive looking way back, more than 20 years, and I'm telling you, it is unlikely that these loans, in my opinion, it is unlikely these loans will ever be forgivable. So just get off of that soapbox.
Yes. It's very easy, and I'm going to try to be as articulate as I can with all of the misinformation that is out there and all of the people that are shilling hope with respect to the thing to make this loan go away. They're shilling the fantasy that this loan is going to go away and you won't have to worry about it and it won't be on the books and.
It's worse than that.
Yes.
It's worse than that.
Yeah.
It's worse than that. Okay, see, that's Batman. That's my screensaver. And in a minute, Linda Ray will appear there. But I got a call 2 weeks ago from a scam EIDL consultant, left a voicemail on my phone. We're going to do a separate video about this. But basically, they said, I'm calling from the EIDL Hardship Center. And you are pre-qualified, she said, to me on my personal cell phone. She said, you are pre-qualified for hardship accommodation and loan modification with the SBA. Call us right now. Okay. First of all, I am an independent contractor and I did not get a COVID-19 EIDL.
So that's
Okay, so
number one.
how can you, secondly, you cannot pre-qualify anybody for anything with SBA. Not for a loan,
No.
not for nothing. There's no pre-qualification. It's not a mortgage.
Well, hold on. Before you go in, I just want to connect the two of my initial statement and what you're saying. And this is what happens when people are in a panic and preoccupied with fantasy. They make bad decisions. We see it. We saw it during COVID, and it's still happening because people are struggling, and we understand that they're struggling. And the only people that don't understand that businesses are still struggling post-pandemic is Congress
And
who
the
can
SBA.
and the SBA that can make decisions. You know,
I want to go to Ms. T's excellent response to KPADs. I'm going to come to this, Ms. T. Thank you again for contributing. This is excellent, and thanks for reminding me. But before we do that, I just want to talk about the scam artists. So the COVID-19 EIDLs cannot be modified. Let's be clear about that. Those loans cannot be a loan modification, to be crystal clear. I'm a former mortgage banker, and I've seen what loan modifications are. A loan modification changes the entire terms of the loan. Do y'all remember when SBA rolled out the increases?
oh
The increases from 150,000 maximum loan
To
to
500.
500,000 and then to 2 million?
Yep.
Guess what those increases were called internally by the SBA?
They were called reconsiderations, increases. Why?
Loan modifications.
Oh, they were.
Because the original loan was 150,000 or whatever your original loan was that you got in your first application. And then when you requested the increase, SBA modified the terms of the original loan. They did not give you a new loan. They did not give a whole new loan documents and notes. No, they gave you a single page letter and a loan agreement that modified the terms of your original loan to reflect the higher loan amount and the higher loan payment. But if you note, the amortization date, the 30-year date, is the same. Because
Yep.
it started running on the initial
Yep.
loan agreement.
Yep.
Okay.
If you're still here, please hit the like button. If you've been here for more than 5 minutes, please hit the like button. It is very important because YouTube will otherwise think that we're, just two knuckleheads trying to, I don't even know what, but we're not a food channel. So let's get
All
going
right, Ms.
here.
T points out something very important here. First of all, let's just talk about the way things should go.
Oh boy. Should is a 4-letter word.
Well, somebody in this household just bought a new car,
Yes.
and she loves the car.
I do.
And we don't have a first payment due on the car until what, next month?
April.
April.
Yeah.
But you've already received communications.
Oh, yeah, a few.
Oh,
Via email.
look how normal that seems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already gone into the dashboard and blah, blah, blah.
You know, this was one of those situations where you walked into the dealer and we got the loyalty credit and all kinds of other stuff, and we got a fantastic car. We love our car. But the payment's not due until April, and yet Linda has already received multiple communications to remind her that that first payment is coming up. But we're hearing from business owners that they never got letters. I spoke to somebody on Thursday.
Somebody here,
An automotive
Miss
repair
T
shop
just said it. Oops,
up in New Hampshire, and he said to me he thought his secretary threw the letter out. I said, I don't think so. I did some questioning with him, and this guy's very organized. I find it hard to believe. I said, don't throw yourself under the bus. They never sent you a letter.
Yeah.
Because we're hearing that from people. We're hearing that the email, and I see it because we have some of our clients, we get their special Gmail accounts for their COVID EIDLs are forwarded to my email address. And I have access to the Gmail accounts because we're assisting them with different aspects of their loan. Often the SBA emails are in the spam folder.
Yeah.
Because of SBA's bad coding or whatever, but they get thrown into the spam folder. If an email goes out at all, you would think that SBA would follow standard procedures, which is, for sure, a letter goes out. We've heard from people that the letter went to the wrong address.
Oh, yeah.
Even after they had called SBA and written to SBA and
Yeah.
sent in change of address.
It's a clown
Okay?
show.
They
It's
send stuff to the
clown
wrong
show.
address. Then it goes in the email, or as Miss T has pointed out, they assume y'all know about the MySBA portal, and you all are thinking to look at that tab up in the upper right-hand corner where it says messages, and there's a little red tab that pops out that says you have messages.
We're 50 minutes. Let's wrap this up because I'm hungry.
Oh, I could go for a
and
while.
I want to make dinner. I know you can.
Okay.
But
I want to talk about just a couple of other things. Next, 60-day grace period. On January 5th, the SBA announced that they were providing a 60-day grace period for all COVID-19 EIDLs of $100,000 or less, that they would not send those loans back to Treasury, or if they were already sent to Treasury, they would offer business owners the opportunity to bring those loans current up until March 4th. So these business owners have another 2 weeks or so to get their acts together. Frankly, I thought 60-day grace was too short a time.
It was disgraceful.
But here's what I discovered when I was in the SBA webinar the other day. Somebody came in to the webinar and asked a question, just like you folks are asking a question. That person said, I called, and the SBA agent said there's no such thing as a grace period.
Oh, wow.
And the person had a $50,000 COVID-19 EIDL.
I can't.
Miss T, you want to say it again? That's crazy? Because it's crazy. Okay.
Okay. This
is like the days of the pandemic when people couldn't get straight answers from anywhere, and we spent our time on these videos and our consultation calls trying to set things straight. As a quick reminder, we offer a U.S. Treasury dispute consulting package, and we offer 1-hour consulting calls. Carlo brings up something very important, and he says,
"Oh, is it this?
In my experience,
yeah, no,
yeah. Well, Carlo, thank you. I love you, brother. Why do people assume these loans should be forgivable? Why? Because the PPP loans were forgivable?
That was a gift, wasn't it?
Which, by the way, under the grace period, the 60-day grace period, SBA also is offering assistance to file forgiveness for all those business owners, because apparently a lot of people have not requested forgiveness.
Yeah.
And the idiot at SBA OIG thinks that that's an indicator of fraud.
Yeah.
It's not, dude. It's not.
Absurd.
There's 3 reasons why people didn't get forgiveness on their PPP loans, in my opinion. Number 1, they didn't know it was forgivable. Okay? SBA, again, you are not top of mind, and it was pandemic, and it was crazy times. It was completely lunatic. People couldn't get straight answers from anything. They don't necessarily know it was forgivable. Number 2, maybe their CPA said, listen, it's 1% interest. Keep it on the books. It's deductible. So they didn't need forgiveness. It's a low affordable payment, 5-year term. Okay. Or number 3, more likely, they attempted to get forgiveness, and they were shut down because I have filed dozens of forgiveness applications for clients. It's hard to do, and I'm a damn loan officer.
Yeah.
Okay? I had banks coming back to me and saying, oh, we can't do forgiveness on this. You need this paperwork. I'm like, no, you don't. As per SBA 3508S, you don't need that document. Oh, well, we want it because we want to see it before we ask the SBA. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of situations. And so now SBA is saying as part of their 60-day grace period that they're going to reach out to people. So let's go back to the bad communication. Miss T, you ready? Here we go.
What?
I saw an email in my spam folder yesterday because I subscribe to our local SBDC, SBA's regional office, their SBS Small Business Development Center. And in my spam folder was an email that looked really fake. It looked like a phishing email until I got another one today in Spanish and in my regular inbox, and I realized that the other one was legit. And SBA was saying, now mind you, the deadline is March 4th. Yesterday, February 16th. 2 days ago, February 14th, this email appears in my spam box. February 14th, SBA is reaching out to tell me I can file forgiveness with only a little more than 2 weeks left. Are you for real, SBA? Okay, and that's it, by the way. In the January 5th press announcement that SBA made about the grace period, they said, we're going to use all our resources to reach out to business owners. BS. SBA, you've got to do better.
Yeah.
Carlos says, these loans are not forgivable in my experience, and you are right, except you're also wrong. Because we saw a comment some months ago in our YouTube, on one of our YouTube videos, where somebody said, well, the EIDLs, the natural disaster loans, used to be forgivable.
Yeah.
And I thought, that logged in my mind. So I made a note of that, and I eventually got around to researching it. And sure enough, there was a time when the SBA could forgive, under certain circumstances, a natural disaster loan. Keep in mind, the COVID-19 EIDL program was built upon SBA's natural disaster program,
Yes.
which is money for physical damage caused by natural disaster and economic injury for lost revenue. And the COVID program is built on that. Well, apparently, Hurricane Katrina wipes out New Orleans and Louisiana and does all that devastating damage. And SBA had a statutory geographic limit of $500 million of loans that could go into any given area. And obviously, it wasn't enough to help business owners and homeowners and renters with physical damage and economic injury loans. So the SBA came to the Congress back in 2005 and said, can we increase this? And the Congress came back and said, yes, we'll let you increase it with one proviso. These loans cannot be forgivable ever again.
Yes.
And there you go.
Yes. And thank you for making that the short version, because we have.
Well, you were kicking me under the table. I had to.
That is covering old ground. We have videos on, we have an entire playlist on EIDL forgiveness where there it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about, finally, about collection agencies.
Last thing, and then we're signing off.
We got a comment. We had somebody reach out to us the other day, a small business owner in Los Angeles, and she told me that she got a communication from a collection agent. And as I mentioned at the start of this broadcast, a business owner in Ohio that I spoke to earlier today told me that she didn't even know it was at U.S. Treasury and Collection till she got an email from a collection agent. So again, because this is what we do for a living, and I went and I researched and I read the IRS website. In 2017, Congress passed legislation that allowed the IRS, U.S. Treasury, to hire outside collection agents, contractors, to assist in collecting defaulted, overdue tax debt, right? And essentially, the purpose of the legislation was basically just to give the IRS an extra set of hands on calling people, finding people, and communicating with them. But according to what I've read so far, the collection agent does not have the authority for offer and compromise, payment plans.
Loan modification.
They have there's no teeth in their bite. They can't put liens on your business or anything like this. Is so far with my research, I might be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Well, since they're making up shit, who knows?
Well, we do know that the collection, as the woman in Ohio told me, that the collection agency was basically trying to avoid telling her that she could dispute this with the U.S. Treasury.
Yes.
And she had to dig it out of them, and that's why she found us, and she hired us to help her with that aspect. So be wary about the collection agencies.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Again, our overall strategy is Go to your MySBA portal, make payments. The worst that's going to happen with your payment, if SBA doesn't accept it, is it'll be shipped off to U.S. Treasury. But if you are making payments to your MySBA portal, you have a lot more heft in your negotiating with the SBA to say, you need to give me a repayment plan.
Right.
You need to get me back from Treasury.
Okay.
You need to give me a
All right.
hardship accommodation. Linda's grabbing my
Yes.
knee, telling me to calm down. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight.
And I want to
Okay.
reiterate, if you have a sense of dread or anxiety or unease or worry, distress, please, 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 please take a deep breath and pause on any serious decision making. I am dead serious. We see this all the time. There are decisions that are made that cannot be reversed, and you are in control of your decisions with executing on resolving some things. Now, SBA isn't making it easy, but the first thing you can do is to just calm down and stop before you do
I want
anything.
to address Frank's statement. And Frank, thank you for joining us. I want to address your statement because there's something that is incorrect in your statement. And I want to answer your question about ramifications. Okay, so Frank's question is if there's no personal guarantee, and that would be because your EIDL loan is less than $200,000 and you are not an independent contractor and you are not a sole proprietor. That means you have the protection of what's called the corporate veil, LLC, or corporate status. In that case, is there a personal consequence? Yes and no. Okay? If you, and this is why we keep telling people, find a way to pay this loan. Okay, so first of all, Frank, what are the ramifications? Well, ramifications are that this goes into collection with the U.S. Treasury, and either a collection agency or the IRS, somewhere along the line, they're going to offset tax returns and take your refunds. They're going to garnish wages if you receive a W-2 through your business. And at some point, someone is going to say to you, we need to work out a payment plan and or you've got to pay this loan back. At which point, what are your options? Attempt to negotiate an offer in compromise with the IRS or file bankruptcy and discharge the debt. Again, we are not attorneys. This is not legal advice. This is informational only. Consult an attorney to confirm this, but we have learned from bankruptcy attorneys we've seen on YouTube that they say the EIDL can be discharged in bankruptcy. So those are the course of action you can take. But there are other consequences, Frank, that you need to be aware of. Remember that your Social Security number, whether there's a corporate veil or not, your Social Security number is attached to that loan, which means there's a good chance you will be put on the government's DNP, or do not pay list, which means that in the future, if you get another SBA, if you apply for another SBA loan, if you go to get a mortgage that's an insured, a federally insured mortgage like the FHA, or if you're a veteran, a VA guaranteed mortgage, or a grant from the government, or if you want to become a government contractor to do business with the government, you might be, to use SBA's words, debarred from doing business with the government because of this defaulted debt. So this isn't a matter, Frank, of this appearing on your credit report. There are much more serious consequences than this going on your credit report. Okay?
Yeah.
So those are the consequences. Now, last thing I want to address here is Frank says, I have watched people get this taken off the credit. Frank, I'm a retired mortgage banker, and I've read thousands of credit reports, and credit is one of my areas of special expertise. I'm going to tell you this about how credit works.
I'm very surprised how calm you are.
If you have a debt that is your debt, and you were responsible for that debt, it can never be removed from your credit report.
Period, full
and
stop.
anyone who tells you that is a scam artist trying to steal your money. You cannot remove information from your credit report that is accurate. If your name is John J. Henry III, and it says John J. Henry III, and you decide you want the third removed, it can't be done because it's your real name. If you had a Macy's credit card that went to charge off, and it was your Macy's credit card, not your Uncle Harry's, and you were a cosigner, if it was your card, it cannot be removed. Yes, these things come off temporarily.
Yes.
That's part of the scam.
That's part of the scam because they have to remove it while it's in dispute, but it goes right back on after maybe 60, 90 days. We have an entire playlist on credit score conundrum or something like that. So I do encourage you to, there's a couple on there that are very to the point of it's not possible. Don't fall for it.
In other news, that's my new branding. And in other news, this is the list of video scripts that I'm working on that I've created. So you're going to see a lot of videos coming up in weeks to come, especially about the SBA Natural Disaster Loan Program. And I want to close with this very important statement. We have had people in our comments on our videos. We've had people on the phone, people on blogs and so forth, who have said things like, I never wanted this loan. I feel like it's predatory lending. I feel like the government forced me to take this loan. I feel like this loan should be forgiven. Okay. And I will never get another SBA loan because I never wanted this. Okay. Well, first of all, it was not predatory lending. This was a necessary aspect to save the American economy, because if you are a student of economics and economic history, as I am, then you will know that Europe has still not recovered fully from the pandemic. And we have in the United States. Yes, there are still challenges. But essentially, the American economy did not suffer the kind of pain that other nations suffered. And part of the reason for that was the COVID-19 EIDL program, which means that all of you who got the loan, you are living, breathing proof that the program worked if your business is still alive and kicking. Okay? Businesses failed. They failed for a lot of reasons. We're not going to get into that. But keep that in mind. Secondly, you cannot say you'll never get another SBA loan because, as you will see, we've got a video coming up in the next few days that Linda's going to publish about the state of commercial lending.
It's already out there.
Oh, it's already published? You published it today?
I published
Thank
it
you.
today. I published
And
3 videos today.
In that video, I discuss the state of commercial lending, which is you go to your bank and you think, I've got an 800 credit score. I've got positive cash flow for the last 3 years on my tax returns. I'm golden. My bank has had my money for 20 years. They know everything about me. I've got a great relationship. I'm going to go in. I need a $100,000 line of credit because I need to buy some equipment. You walk into the bank. Banker's like, happy dude. How's it going? They sign you up. And next thing you know, they're putting you into an SBA product because the banks don't want to be on the hook.
Yeah, exactly.
The banks are part of the problem with commercial lending because the banks will only, in most cases, lend as long as the United States government is standing behind them, because the SBA does not lend the money.
Okay,
they
we have
guarantee
a video.
the loan.
They have a video. I put the link in the comments for anyone who's
Watch
still
the video.
here.
Watch the
If
video.
anyone is still here and you made it this entire time and you haven't hit like or you haven't subscribed, we do ask you to do that because YouTube will actually rank us that people want to hear from us.
I love you. I told you this afternoon when I spoke to you, I'm so proud to have made your acquaintance and to get to know you. And I'm actually very humbled in your presence because you are, I don't know if you heard earlier.
Don't make me cry.
But you girlfriend, you got it going on. You are running a business the way it should be run. And I'm very, very humbled to know you. And thank you for your very kind compliment. And along those lines, just how can we help? You can do 2 things. Well, there's 3 things you can do with this. Number 1, if you want the benefit of my spike hair brain, 1-hour phone call you can book in our calendar. Link is in the description. And that's $275. Currently, we're not sure if we're going to raise the fee, but it's currently $275. Secondly, we are offering a flat fee United States Treasury dispute consulting package, where I collect some basic information from you. I review your history of attempting to make these payments, and I put together a comprehensive package for you to fight, or to at least start the fight.
And you complete the paperwork and all the sums.
That's essentially what do we do here at Aurora Consulting. We essentially are professional application form filler outers. That's what we do. That's what we did to help we helped our clients get $70 million in approvals. So we kind of sort of know what we're doing.
All right.
And my paperwork is, and so we offer that. Third is if you have something more complicated that needs longer time, we offer hourly consulting. We send a consulting agreement. We give you a scope of work, estimated time, required deposit. AuroraConsulting.biz. Everything you need to know is there because our website is designed by the amazing Linda Ray, and she is my goddess. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much to everybody. You make this possible by being here and sharing your stories so that we can all be better informed. The more informed with accurate information that we are, the better decisions we will make when adversity strikes, because SBA is completely dysfunctional and the SBA and the Treasury don't have their act together yet to assist you and be your advocate, the constituents that you are in this country. And I'm going to start crying, so let's just sign out now. And thank you to everybody who was here. Again, thank you so much.
Stay safe, stay well.